in this.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to SDN. And it's been a while, actually. 3 weeks ago was the previous race at Barcelona, if you remember. But it's good to be back, and I am not alone this time. Actually, I've never been alone this time. But Jamie is alongside me once again. How are you, mate?
I'm not too bad, mate. Nice to be back here in Las Vegas. Of course, me and you have commentated around this track, and this track definitely produces some great racing indeed. There was a lot of doubts back when it first started in 2023 because it looked like it was just a showdown race, like in Miami, Las Vegas. There's 3 US tracks on the calendar, of course, Texas being one of them. In my opinion, one of the best US tracks out there as well, because you can go side by side in the last sector and produce some great battles. But here, the battling is not too bad. Of course, you've got the 1.9 kilometer straight, 1.2 miles down the main straight as well, down the Las Vegas Strip, and that's where we'll see most of the overtaking happening. But 40 tonight, it is a sprint qualifying, like it was, I think, back at the Austrian Grand Prix, as we got all confused, and the Silverstone Grand Prix as well. So, I did the sprint here tonight. Let's see how it goes, Milan.
Indeed, so we start off with sprint qualifying, which is shorter than usual. I think it is 12 minutes, but it's one session though, so to put extra pressure on these drivers. But we will have the sprint race afterwards, and then the usual qualifying, which is also going to be short in this format. But Mike in the Ferrari, he's going to start his lap, but I don't think this is going to be a time lap just yet. He's still weaving his tires, trying to get some temperature in them. Of course, everyone on the mediums in sprint qualifying. So it takes just a little bit longer to get the temperature up, which is why Mike is going for another lap. I don't think Dennis is in the Haas. He has started his first flying lap, so let's take a look on board with the Haas as he makes his way through turn number 3 and 4 and onto one of 2 DRS straights. Definitely the shortest one down into the braking zone of turn 5. Have to be mindful of the wall on the outside and the curb on the inside, throwing the car in and keeps it out of the barrier nicely. Then now into turn 6, 7 and 8, and 7 is a tricky braking zone because you have to brake while steering, meaning if you have ABS off, it's quite easy to let the rear end step out, but he seems to manage it quite nicely. And also out of turn 9 and now flat out until turn number 12, where you have to be really mindful of the curb on the inside, because you hit it at just the wrong angle, it could just send you completely into the outside wall. But Dennis managing it all quite nicely. It seems to be a tidy lap so far for the Haasman as he makes his way now down the Las Vegas Strip, where DRS is enabled only around halfway. So you don't have the full straight of DRS. He's got 2 cars in front of him who hopefully will get out of the way in time. Now 1 chicane left, turn 14, 15 and 16, and it is one hell of a chicane with curbs left, right and center. You have to try and avoid and hit at the right angle, but he is doing it quite nicely. Actually, in fact, seems to getting through there quite cleanly now, as Mike does go faster, but the 1:38 is definitely not going to be the fastest time, as Dennis crosses the line. A 1:31.094 puts him 0.002 of a second ahead of Erik.
That's quite surprising, those top 2 there, with 31.094, 2,000 separating those 2. It's their first lap time, their first exploratory lap time around the circuit, and already in close proximity of each other. 62-kilometer circuit as well, so that is absolutely amazing there from Erik and FaZe. Dennis as Mike pops a forward to P3 as Reiki Yu now takes P1 away, and he's still in the 131.0 territory there. So that is quite close between those guys, almost a 10 separator. 5 Blaze goes up to P2, so there's 4 people within a 131.0 as Power SCM goes quickest with a 30.7. So the first driver in the 30s, as we've got, I think, Amos Kick heading down. No, Lucas pops himself into P2, does the Williams driver, and his teammate Kick is out there on the circuit as well as he now heads towards this right hand we go, coming towards the difficult breaker zone. Reiki Yu into P3 in the Aston Martin. Kick now heads towards the breaker zone. Look at that, so much speed coming through there. Lando Norris crashed. Aban goes quickest with a 30.446 in McLaren there, so great lap time from him. And now Amos Kick is on the Las Vegas Strip. There is a Haas in front of him as well, so let's see if he might get a benefit of the tow. He does for a little bit, but the DRS now is wide open for the Williams driver. As now we head down towards the chicane as Mike in the Ferrari goes P2 as well. Nice one there for Mike. His second lap on those medium compound tyres as Kick makes his way through turn 13 to 16 as now he exits the corner with the battery available to him. Let's see what he could do as Eastbound goes up into P5 in the Haas, the championship leader. Here comes Kick towards the line. Kick goes quickest with a 30.330. Nice one there from Amos Kick.
Good lap time indeed, puts him around just over a tenth of a second ahead of Evan. Then Mike and Power seem not quite the usual top 4, as Eastbrand after his first run could only manage P6 and a 30.9. But it's all just getting used to this track. We don't have too much time for that. Only 5.5 minutes remaining, and drivers will be on consecutive laps, I can imagine, as Fireblaze currently in P8 pulling into the pit lane as well on the Ferrari. Just 3 drivers remain without a lap time, which is DVHNL, Muminik, who just starts his flying lap, and Kevin Zonnebjerg, who is going to do the same in a moment time, and we know that he is very quick and could be a contender for pole position in this sprint qualifying. But DVHNL is going to be the first one to cross the line, although he's low on fuel and he's not really using ERS either, so I don't think this is quite going to be a push lap for him. So we'll keep an eye out on Muminik then and Kevin and see what they can do. A good opportunity for Muminik to score some good points with not many drivers attending this race, unfortunately only 14 right now. And another positive for Muminik is that his teammate Power Seam is up there in the top 4 and could score some good points as well for Sau. But Muminik now makes his way into the final sector, hits the wall slightly there on the inside of turn 10, down to the braking zone of turn 12. Looks like the bonnet has already been knocked over after just a few minutes of qualifying. 55.4 in the middle sector. Let's see what Kevin can do right behind. I would imagine he will be a little bit quicker. Yes, he is by, well, 0.8 of a second. So not just a little bit. But Muminik then making his way down the Las Vegas strip. Just a few more corners remaining on this flying lap. Everyone else is in the pit lane with just under 4 minutes remaining. Goes a little bit too deep though into the braking zone of turn 14. It might have compromised his exit as well. As out of the chicane, he's got all of his ERS deployed and he's going into the pit lane. He is not going to finish that lap. Kevin certainly is, as he drains the battery for the run to the line with just one single kink remaining. The McLaren driver goes across the line for 130.144 and that puts him on top.
Wow, what a lap time there from Kevin, as expected from the man who is a PSGL F2 then, with a 30.144, as we've got some people then allocated to the softcore powered tyres. So a few runs on mediums. Like you said, it is a short qualifying, so no mistakes can be afforded to be made as well. Looks like these guys will get the one run only on a set of softcore powered tyres. On this game, I'm not really familiar with the sprint qualifying, how it works, etc. But obviously we all know it's very short. But Eastbound then is the first one out on the circuit, followed by the Ferrari 2, as Mike makes his way out of the pit lane. Mike has suffered a few bad results recently with a few DNS to his name. He's had a few podiums as well this season. I remember back at the Miami Grand Prix when he said it was his last race in this season in SDN, but finished in P3 with a lovely double overtake on his own teammates and Williams at the time as well. So nice to see that Mike is still running around here as well. Finished 4th at the Belgian Grand Prix, and he got another podium back at the Chinese Grand Prix as well. So even though Mike said he was going to retire, he picked up a few podiums along the way. So Kevin's on board then, we know. But I don't think Kevin has enough time to get back in the pit lane and put on a set of softcore powered tyres. So his qualifying will be ending. So I dare say with the guys behind him on a brand new set of softcore powered tyres have the upper hand and set blistering times on them softcore powered tyres. We've got a few people in the 131.0s on the medium, so 9/10 away from Kevin on the same set of medium powered tyres, but now everybody's alternated to the softcore powered tyres. Almost everybody out of the pit lane, the few remaining just in the pit lane, same as Muminik. Kevin's retired then in the pit lane, so he watches on. He tries to do a Sebastian Vettel in Singapore 2013 as Vettel took pole, doing one lap only, as the rest tried to hunt him down with Rosberg in second, Webber third and Hamilton fourth. But here comes Eastbound now making his way towards the line. I just flicked off ball with him by mistake. Where is he? There he is then, headed down towards turn 1, in towards the breaker zone. We go in 4th gear, connects with the apex very nicely, being very steady on the throttle as we head now towards this long right hand through turn 2 and turn 3, then bring it out wide. DRS immediately opened on this second back straight as we head down towards the breaker zone, in towards turn 4 we go now, braking around the 100 meter board, down to the gears again, into 4th, hits the apex very nicely, get as close to the wall as you possibly can. And now this corner is a little clumsy corner, because like you said, you're braking and accelerating at the same time. Look at the curbs there. He's mounted them a lot as well, trying to maximize every single part of the racetrack, trying to get the car rotated as well as we exit now the slow speed corners, headed towards the high speed corners we go, in towards this fast right hander we go, now coming towards the left hander as well, just focusing on the braking point, headed down in towards turn 12 now, down to the gears once again, a bit hesitant as well, a bit of a snap there as the car was trying to get away from him, but 5/10 up in this middle sector. is the championship leader of Eastplan then, as he makes his way down the main straight. He got defeated by Khatikas last 2-3 weeks ago at the Spanish Grand Prix, as Khatikas picked up his first win of the season. What a fantastic drive, but unfortunately the Dutchman is not here tonight. As we now head towards Brickerton, in towards the chicane we go. A lot of people do suffer through here. It's very easy to hit the wall as well, very easy to misjudge it as you arrive in at high speed, about 355 kilometers an hour, 250 miles an hour. Here comes Eastbrand, towards the line we go. Is this pole? The answer is no. It's a 30.221, and unfortunately could not dethrone Kevin, despite Kevin being on the mini compound tyres.
Missed out by just a few hundredths of a second. Behind him is Mike in the Ferrari. He goes second ahead of Eastbrand, only a few thousandths off Kevin. What a lap there from Mike. As we now look at the Kicksauber of Power Seam, rounding the final corner, currently set in P6. He crosses the line, he goes fastest with a 130.1. And Power Seam is on provisional pole position, as Face Dennis goes only 8th fastest. And that now leaves the wheel to Evan in the final chicane. We also still got the two Williams drivers out there, and Fireblaze trying to improve. Let's see what Evan can do. He had a very strong first lap. Can he find an improvement? He needs 3/10 to put Power Seam off the throne. He goes fastest, 30.018. What a lap. And that puts Kevin in P3 and Eastbrand down into P5. Not ideal for our championship leader. Fireblaze can only manage P9. That is far from ideal in his championship fight. As we look at Eric going only 7th fastest, just ahead of his teammate Rick Aju. Then the two Williams drivers. Lucas can only go 6th. What about Kick though? In the other Williams, who has been on pole before this season. He crosses the line and Kick goes fastest, 129.916, the only one to go into the 29s. And Kick puts his Williams on pole position for the sprint race. As we look at Toxavia in the Red Bull, he can only go 10th fastest, but Fireblaze all the way down in P12. But what a lap from Kick, the only one in the 29s.
Amazing lap time there for Kick. Pulled out of the back at the very last second as well. But Kevin shouldn't be too disappointed because, of course, his best lap time was on the mini compound tyres. Was that pre-planned for Kevin? Was that the plan all along to save a set of the soft compound tyres later on in the short qualifying of the race? I'm not quite sure. But Kevin, was it just a mistake or was it planned? But there are your classifications. It is Kick on pole ahead of Evan in P2. A decent qualifying from Evan so far this season. And ETA Lawrence has joined the session then. And wow, remember what happened at the turn 4 between Fireblaze, Lawrence and Eric when they all made contact, and that's when you made that noise about when you screamed your head off. That was absolutely fantastic there. But there are your classifications. It is Kick on pole ahead of Ivan and Seam in P3.
Indeed, in the exciting qualifying session, and I just read the chat, and Ivan said it is gonna rain in the race. I'm not quite sure if he means the sprint race or the main race, but either way, that is going to provide some entertainment, because Las Vegas in the rain is a very tricky one.
I've never actually raced in the rain. I've actually never seen it rain in Las Vegas. Obviously it rains in Las Vegas, but I've never seen it rain in terms of league racing. I've actually never seen it rain here, so that could be an interesting turn in the Grand Prix. Have you?
Yeah, in JSR last season, the race was full wet throughout the entirety, which I managed quite nicely because rain is my specialty, kind of. So I picked up a podium, but I have seen it before. That is going to spice things up, indeed.
Tell a lie, I've actually seen rain. It was the F1 23 game where I commentated, and it was so treacherous indeed. A lot of people struggled. It went from wet to dry, so it did drive towards the end of the race as well. That was one of the fantastic races I commentated as well. So yeah, I have seen it rain around here in Las Vegas, and it will spice things up for sure. And let's see what happens then in this sprint race. But what I used to like about the sprint race, in fact, here you go, Evan.
Yeah, we're going for the 5-red light for the sprint race. Kick on the left-hand side with Evan on the right. And we are on the way for 9 laps of racing. And it's a great start from Kick. And Power Seam already trying to go around the outside of Evan into turn 1. As Evan, not with the greatest of starts, down to P3 on the outside now of the Kicksauber behind Mike and Kevin going wheel to wheel as well. Clean start from Kick, with all sorts of fighting in the background. Power Seam will have the inside line for turn 5. That will for sure put him ahead of Ivan, and it does. So Power Seam with a great start as Mike still up the inside of Kevin into the braking zone. Bit of contact between himself and the McLaren. Each one of the P6 in the background, that is Dennis and Octavia, both into the wall on the exit of turn 5 as Lucas goes up the inside of Eric as we go wheel to wheel in the middle sector, the tightest part of the track. Lucas still on the exit as Powersim with a massive power slide on the exit of turn 10 as Eric and Lucas still going at it, and Eric just stays ahead of the Williams with a great start from Kick.
Indeed it is then, so Kevin hasn't made any places, he stays in P4, but we saw fantastic fights, 2x2 in the first few corners. Somebody has lost an end plate. Was that a Aston Martin? Seen a bit of green there on the side of the road, so it could have been the Aston Martin. I'm not quite sure if it is or not, but Ivan is already ahead as Powersim has already lost 2 places there. Kevin goes through, and here comes Ivan for the lead of the Grand Prix immediately, going down in towards the chicane we go. Ivan lays to the brakes, he pushes McLaren into first place, gets a bit squirrely and a bit sluggish out of the exit there, and now there's a whole gaggle of cars waiting to take him on. Here comes Kicks to retake the lead of the Grand Prix now, the side by side as we head down the main straight we go. Here comes Kevin now, looking to take advantage. We're almost abreast, but Kick is so late the brakes, goes a bit wide as Ivan might take him back on as well, going down in towards turn 2, but Kick stays there. Here comes Powersim up the inside of Kevin, going down in towards turn 2. DRS immediately enabled. Kevin gets past in the steer tube as here comes Ivan once again. Here comes Kevin on the left hand side. The 2 McLarens go side by side as we head down towards turn 4. Kick got swamped, and now the 2 McLarens left to scrabble it out for first place as now here comes Powersim. Kick had a bit of a bad exit there in turn 4. Now Powersim's on the inside as contact, and Kevin has to take off the road, and Kevin gets the immediate 3-second penalty. I dare say that move wasn't on for Powersim, and now Kevin unfortunately has to pay the consequences with a 3-second penalty.
Might be able to get that removed though after the race, so we'll have to keep that in mind. But Powersim, bit of an audacious move up the inside of Kevin, but lots of fighting so far in this sprint race. 9 laps of non-stop action as the 2 McLarens out in front. Ivan leads ahead of his teammate Kevin, but Kevin will have DRS just like everyone else behind him all the way down to P12. And here comes Kevin round the outside to take the lead of this race away from Ivan. And is Powersim going to have a go as well in the Kick Sauber? Kick certainly is trying to go around the outside of the Sauber into the braking zone of turn 12. Mike also trying to have a look as Powersim goes way too deep, and that allows the switchback from Ivan. And Powersim into the wall on the exit, and he drops all the way down into P10. I don't think he's got any front wing damage, but that has lost him a lot of time and a lot of positions as Kick continues to fight it out with Ivan. But they have to keep mindful because Kevin is slightly running away with it right now. 8/9 of a second towards Ivan. The 2 McLarens split by almost a second, but I think Ivan just got within DRS range if he wants to stay in this fight for the race win. Mike now up to P4, Eastbrand in P5, but that is very unfortunate for Powersim. Drops all the way down to P10 with that.
So I saw what happened there. Powersim locked the rears up, and he just lost momentum, lost traction again in towards the chicane there, and unfortunately just dropped backwards, like you said, down to P10. He's still in the DRS trend, of course, in P10, and then so there's a lot of places yet to be gained there for the Kick Sauber, but the Kick Sauber running a fantastic race so far until that little bit of a moment going down in towards the chicane. So Kevin tried to streak away, but obviously the power of the DRS helping the guys behind stay in contention. Look at this then as we exit the corner. Some people getting close to the wall at the exit there of turn number 12. Now turn 13. Now the DRS is wide open once again. We'll constantly see this, people changing and swapping places there. Now the DRS is open for the guys behind Kevin, and let's see what the changes are. Here comes the Kick. Here comes Williams, and the Ferrari in the middle. The Ferrari goes through. What a fantastic move there to put himself into P2.
Wow.
And he's ahead of both of them before the braking zone. Mike, very audacious, went in the middle. That could have been an aeroplane crash there if those two wasn't paying attention. But Mike made it through. Kick and Ivan acknowledged he was there, gave enough space, and now right behind the back of Kevin as well as we head down towards turn 1. And Mike now sets the quickest lap time of the Grand Prix, and Mummy Nick gets past his own teammate there, so Powersim is down into P11. Mummy Nick is running inside the top 10 as well in this race. He does struggle, but now he's inside the top 10. Can he remain there? That is the question.
Indeed, as Kick is once again under pressure from Ivan. Was very close down on the back straight with Mike, Kick and Ivan. It could have been a nasty crash there as Kevin hits the outside wall of turn 5, which loses him some speed, but it's really difficult to overtake in this second sector, like we just saw with Powersim a few laps ago, which didn't quite go to plan. But he's got a massive train behind. Speaking of Powersim, picks up a 3-second time penalty for good measure, so he is definitely out of the fight for the points in this race. But Mike putting the pressure on Kevin. He's got a little bit of a gap behind to Kick, 0.6 of a second. But they're all still within DRS range. So Kick runs slightly deep into turn 12. And is Mike now going to try and go for the overtake for the race lead? At the end of lap 4, you will have the DRS in a few moments time as the two Saubers swap around once more. Here comes Mike with DRS slipstream. Not going to use any ERS, we just go up the inside, and Mike is going to take the lead of this race at the end of lap 4. Great drive so far from him, as Evan has already got ahead of Kick as well. And then it's Eastbound still stuck in P5, not really making progress so far in this sprint race. But you have to wait until the final few laps, that's what matters. And Eric and Lucas, same for them, sticking around in 6 and 7. In fact, Lucas hitting the back there of the Aston Martin, but going slightly defensive into turn 1. But it's Mike now out in front in the Ferrari, and he leads this train all the way down to P9 as the two Saubers have dropped outside the DRS zone.
Kick is about to be overtaken by Eastbound as we head down the second straight with the DRS open. Kick has closed the DRS. He's dropping backwards, and I've noticed on the last lap, he let a van go willingly. No resist, no sort of defend offered there from the Williams driver. So I wonder what's going on there, because he lost a lot of ERS on the last lap. Oh, almost lost it on the curb too. So Kick is not really fighting this out. He let Eastbound go. He let a van go on the main straight last lap as well. Eric and Lucas there, right behind him too. So I wonder what kind of strategy Lucas is playing there, or Kick, sorry, in P5 is playing there, as Eastbound has been released into P4 now as these guys head on the main straight once again down the 1.9 kilometer, 1.2 miles for those people in the US and the UK, such as me. And now the DRS is enabled. Phase Dennis unfortunately has lost it at the exit of turn 12 as the Haas runs out wide. And here comes Mike, or Kevin, sorry, for the lead of the Grand Prix once again. In the background, Eric is about to overtake Kick as we head down towards the breakers. There we go, as Eric puts himself into P5 with a fantastic lunge on the inside too. So Kick has lost 3 places in the space of 2 laps here, not really resisting. But here comes Kick back once again as we go wheel to wheel, as Mike, or Eric, sorry, has barely any ERS in his disposal to use. And look at Lucas right behind too, wanted to take a piece of the action as we head down towards turn 1. His face Dennis has retired from this race. Is that a safety car, I wonder? And the answer is no, he crashed. And look at this then, here comes Kick around the outside in towards 2 and 3 we go. But Eric just stays ahead for the time being, as here comes Lucas on the back too, looking to try and overtake his own teammate and Eric as well. Eric has been a menace this season. He has been absolutely quick as well. He's picked up a few podiums along the way, and he picked up a win back at the Monza Grand Prix. He did, as the Haas goes a bit deep in the breaker zone there, as you see that now Eric is in the back of him, and once again so there's a massive chain going from first all the way down to 9th place with Reiki Yu on the back of it. Talk about Reiki Yu, actually doing a very good job as well in the Aston Martin. Robert Jacobs, usually he is the one in the Aston Martin too. Ivan right behind Mike as we now head down towards turn 13, as we see Eric go a bit deep in the breaker zone there, almost hits the wall on the exit. But as we now head down the back straight once again, this is very intense in the last few laps of this Grand Prix. It's all about who's where in the last laps of the Grand Prix, but where I don't want to be is first place. Here comes Eastbound now. Is he going to go in the middle like Mike did as we go wheel to wheel? Here comes Ivan up in second place as Mike trying to go back down the inside of Ivan. He does, stays in second place despite being hunted down by Ivan and Eastbound.
Well, great fighting route, and Ivan is still going up the inside into the final corner, wheel to wheel with Mike and Eastbound. Not Gondor in behind, so close between these two, but they can't fight too much, or else they will drop out of the DRS range of Kevin. It's all about positioning your car, track position at this stage in these final few laps, as Ivan trying to go for the up and under, but he can't quite manage to do it, and Mike stays in second place, just around 7/10 behind Kevin in the lead, as Lucas, or having a look at Eric and Kick, has dropped behind another place down to P7. Kick really going backwards in this race, seems to be really struggling on these mediums. Not a great start for him for the main race later on tonight. He's down in P7, has company with Fireblazers. Ricky Ju is dropping behind as well a little bit in the second Aston Martin, as Kevin still in the lead by 9, almost 1 second. This could be crucial, because even if he can remove his 3-second time penalty, if he gets himself out of the danger zone of getting caught, that will help him certainly. And I think Mike just hit the wall on the exit a little bit there, and that has put him out of DRS range. He's deploying some ERS to get back into it, but I think he's just gonna miss out, as the detection point was right there, which allows Avan now to try and go for the move on the Ferrari, which he is not gonna do right now, as Mike actually, with the straight line speed, has closed the gap down back to around 0.8 of a second. We have 2 laps remaining, as Octavia is now retired from the race as well, making it 2 DNF so far in this sprint race. Evan really almost pushing Mike through the corner. The gap is growing once more to over 0.9 of a second. In the background, having a little look up the inside of Eric, but we're on the penultimate lap of this race. Kevin has the best position right now, and if he can keep this gap, then I'm sure he will be able to cross the line in first.
And as you can see on ERS deployment there, Mike is lacking there. Kevin has just got a bit, as he almost broke out of DRS range on the last lap to Kevin, but he can't do it, unfortunately. I thought he would pull away in this Grand Prix, judging by his qualifying pace. He is pulling away slightly there. Mike seems to be struggling in the corner. You can see him just sliding around just a little bit with the car unsettled in the slow speed. Look at that, a massive slide again, once again, in towards, I think it's turn number 10 that is, that slow speed left-hander. Very clumsy corner indeed. And moments like this are costly as well, because Mike is outside the DRS range once again. I'm surprised he's not used a bit of battery trying to get himself back in contention there. So it looks like Mike hits the wall. The exit of turn 12 there with his right front tyre, and now Ivan. Surely Ivan has to go for this move, because Mike can't get in DRS range of Kevin, although he isn't it right now. Yes, he is. So he got the DRS on the back of it. As well, the detection point was way further back. Fireblades over to his kick, and what's Ivan going to do against Mike? Nothing for the time being, stays behind. So Mike, it's very important on the next lap, as Lucas is there very close towards Eric, but seems to be still stationary in P6. Their kick has dropped backwards into a place, so he's not really enjoying this ride so far here in Las Vegas. And now, what's Ivan going to do? I thought last lap Ivan had a big chance to overtake Mike because he had the DRS and Mike didn't, and we go side by side in towards one between Lucas, goes a bit deeper to break his zone. Eric stays ahead in P5, but Lucas down he is, finds contact and he spins, almost spins, more contact as well. Lucas and Eric make contact, Eric saves the car, then Lucas and Eric make contact once again, and now Fireblades, it's up to P5 there between, unfortunately those two have lost the DRS now, and quite sure what happened there. There's barely any space at the exit of turn 3 and turn 4 between both of them. Should Eric left the door a bit more open there for Lucas, but that will go down to Stewards if it is reported. So now, the main important thing though is Mike and Kevin Zumberg. Now the gap starts at 5/6 then, so this is a big chance for Mike to try and overtake Kevin on the straight. Kevin has saved up a bit of battery as well, so that will be beneficial for him on the Las Vegas Strip. Let's see what happens then. I'll leave it down to you, Milan. Oh no!
Let's go, Kevin! 3-second time penalty, and I can tell you that is putting me out of the race win. So it's between Mike, Ivan, and Isbrand then for the race win, as Mike deploys absolutely everything in the battery. But here comes Isbrand with Ivan with the slipstream, pulls to the outside, and Ivan is going to try and get past Mike, as Isbrand can't quite do anything. Mike knows this is his only chance as he goes on the inside, wheel to wheel into the chicane, bit of contact between the two, still going wheel to wheel on the exit. Ivan into the wall, and Mike has got ahead, and Isbrand has got ahead of Ivan. Well, now the run to the line. Kevin is going to cross the line first. On track is Isbrand going to go for it, wheel to the line. Oh, that was so close between Mike and Isbrand. Photo finish, 17 thousandths of a second in the end, separating our winner from P2. Wow, what a finish that was.
I honestly thought that Isbrand got it, because I was on board with him when he went side by side with Mike, and it looked like his nose was just ahead of the Ferrari there, but Mike held on. Very, very good there for Mike to win the Grand Prix. What a fantastic drive as well, winning the sprint race, and this is Mike's best result of the whole season. Yes, it's a sprint race, but it still counts as a win in my books, because he did a fantastic job. He scored a few podiums, and he's actually been better than Fireblades in the last few races as well, has at Mike. So he's really shown his mettle so far this half of the season as well. Ever since he retired, ever since he announced retirement at the Miami Grand Prix, said it was his last race. I'm not quite sure if it was April back then. Maybe it could have been April Fool's, I'm not quite sure. But ever since then, he's done a fantastic job. Miami was way back in January, so that was way long ago. That was like 4 or 5 months ago, since the start of the year. So after Miami, Mike has done a mega job. Yes, he's had a few ups and downs, especially back at the Spanish Grand Prix as well, where there's a lot of contact involved with a lot of drivers, where it got a lot of So it got a bit messy going towards the last stage of the Grand Prix. DNF as well during that Grand Prix. F1 Chores did, Van did, and Octavia, Timmy, and Timmy Boy were retired as well after all that contact that happened on the final lap of the Grand Prix, where obviously that TikTok video was made by Van. And now we're heading in towards short qualifying then. There is 15 drivers on the track because on the sidelines was ETA Lawrence. He is now allowed to join the session, and hopefully we can see what the Dutchman could do. The PSGL F2 race winner in the first race of the season. His only one and only win so far after a challenge of the championship, but unfortunately it didn't go to Kickstarter's way because they had a lot of problems during the season as well in terms of issues with the wheel, mechanical problems, and teammates as well not working together because both Sabers were very quick, the Norwegian and the Dutchman, but unfortunately just couldn't get the Aston Martin duo who won the championship that year as well. And I actually don't know who actually won the championship in F2, even though I am the commentator, but that is quite embarrassing indeed, so I actually need to go look at that. But 80 minutes in this qualifying session, normal services resume.
Indeed, so we have got 15 drivers, all 14, and including ETA Lawrence, who we know he's very quick, can be very quick in qualifying if he just hooks up that lap. So 18 minutes of qualifying compared to the 12 he just had in sprint qualifying, and now everyone can go on the softs for all of their runs. At the moment still everyone remains in pit lane, so it's gonna be interesting to see if anyone can go faster than the sprint quality time. I would assume that they will be able to. At 29.9 is gonna be the time to beat. It's gonna be interesting to see how many drivers can get into that 29 in qualifying, as a few drivers starting to go out. ETA Lawrence, one of the first, along with Lucas in the Williams, but Lucas is going out on the intermediates. It's not raining just now in this qualifying session, it will in the race. So now it is dry, but he's obviously going for a test run. But Lawrence goes out on softs, and he will be our first driver to attempt a flying lap. Right behind him, Kevin going out on the mediums. So keep an eye out on him as well, as he runs actually deep into turn 5, and he's going to have to, well, I was going to say he's going to have to flick spin the car around, but he just does the old 3-point turn like a grandma, and he resumes his way in qualifying as more drivers start going out of the pit lane. But let's take a look then at Lawrence. He has missed the sprint race, he has missed sprint qualifying. So these are his first laps around the Las Vegas street circuit in SDN tonight. So he's going to have to take it a little bit careful on his first run. Can't afford to put his car into the barrier or invalidate, as he is at the end of his out lap. Got 15 minutes remaining, quite a lot of cars still in pit lane, surprisingly. Usually you see quite a lot of cars going out quite early, but not in this case. Let's take a look then on board with the Red Bull as he makes his way out of the turn 14, 15, 16 chicane, and he is going to start his first flying lap. Just ahead of him is Lucas on the intermediates, but here is Lawrence on softs. He just makes his way down into the braking zone of turns 1 and 2, a very long left-hander where putting the throttle down can be quite tricky. Turn 3 should be flat out with the right conditions and the right setup, and I think he has managed to do that. Now on to one of two DRS straights between turn 4 and 5. Now into the braking zone, and you want to hit that inside curve nicely. Cut it, and he cuts it a little bit too much, and that has invalidated his lap time. So he will not set a lap time first.
And of course, Manan, that this is Lawrence's first proper lap because he didn't participate in the short qualifying either. So in the sprint qualifying, I must say. So this is Lawrence's first lap, whereas other people have an advantage because they've already done laps in the sprint qualifying, so therefore they have the information and they have the knowledge around the circuit as well, and doing the race. So they've got a lot of information and they have the upper hand in comparison towards Lawrence as well as Pete. So we've got a few people on the intermediates, haven't we? So I think they're trying to save a set of stock power tyres later on during the Grand Prix, of course. We know the inters may be used during the race, so these green wall tyres will be introduced during the Las Vegas Grand Prix, and we'll see then what happens in Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, as they all say. But anyways, then here comes Lucas. He's the first one to cross the line. Of course, not really a representative, but a 33.3 on the intermediate compound tyres then, as we see elsewhere. Mike has made a mistake. Someone on the track is backed off on the mini compound tyres as well. And who else is actually on a proper flying lap? Nobody really showing their hands so far. Kevin Zumberg is out of turn 13 towards 16, but he's not on a flying lap either. Going for a second lap on these sets of compound tyres. I think Octavia is going for a flying lap. I think Octavia pitted quite early during the sprint race as well, or spun early in the Grand Prix as well. So let's see then, can his luck change here in the feature race as he makes his way towards the line? Goes quickest with a 30.876 there. As we know, pole was a 29.9 on the soft compound tyres there, so got a lot to improve there for the Red Bull driver of Octavia, and let's see if he can do it or not. Where's TVHNL? TVHNL, for me, I'm quite interested in because he has been a regular top 10 finisher. He may struggle in qualifying, he may get knocked out in Q1 potentially sometimes, but he's always got some decent race pace. He always sneaks inside the top 10 somehow, the TVHNL. Maybe he's alone during the Grand Prix, but people in front of him make mistakes, people spin out, people make contact, people get penalties, and he always seems to try and grab the reins as well. So his best result, I think, came at the Hungarian Grand Prix when he finished in P5, I think it was, after starting outside the top 10 after getting knocked out in Q1. So he's also one to watch. He can be very consistent in terms of getting those results he needs. He may not be the quickest driver out there, but he tries his best and he is very consistent as well. So that's what I like about the Mercedes driver in third place there. Lucas in P2, he's on the East of course. Mike and Kevin go for a second lap on the soft compound tyres. Here comes Kevin down towards 13 and 16 we go. And looking to use a lot of curb, but unfortunately Valdez on the exit there and ruins his lap time for the second lap in a row.
And then we took a look at his teammate Evan on the podium in the sprint race, missed out on the win by a few hundredths of a second, and but he now makes his way out of turn 12 and goes fastest in the middle part of the lap. The fastest lap right now is 1:30.8, so it is going to get a lot quicker than that in the remainder of this session. Still 11 minutes to go as the fan makes his way down the Las Vegas strip and into the final chicane, right on board with the McLaren. Power Seam goes P3, not a representative lap time for him either, as he clips the inside curb slightly there, Van, but hasn't lost too much time with that. Now deploy all the ERS remaining in the battery with the run to the line, and I can imagine this is going to be the quickest lap time so far in the session, and it is. And a 1:30.101 actually is quite a good banker lap, given that a 1:29.9 was the fastest lap in sprint qualifying. So impressive lap time from Evan. Let's see what everyone else can do.
Yeah, nice one there. Evan says in the chat that he got robbed. I presume he's talking about the sprint race there. He felt like it was pushed out too wide in turn 16. It was an audacious thing, but obviously in Vegas you're going to get contact like that. But luckily he wasn't in the wall fully and still finished on the podium as well. So Evan, you got some decent race pace in the McLaren. I don't think Evan has got a podium yet this season. He's been mighty close like every single race, but unfortunately just can't seem just to get there is either kind of Evan. So his best result came 4th place multiple times as well this season. But yeah, no podium, no win yet this season for the Dutch McLaren driver. So I wonder, is Vegas his big chance to try and win or stand on top of the podium as well? He's been like an interest to watch out for, Evan. I always feel like he's got some good pace, but he tends to like drop away in the second half of the Grand Prix. I remember USA where he was up there, but he just dropped away from the DRS zone. And things can happen during the Grand Prix as well, where he made contact with kick down in towards 1 and 2. But he is very quick. He just needs to try and piece the puzzles together, try and get himself up there as well. But no, Mike has got it. In fact, a lot of these drivers in this division, they've all got some good potential, but it's the fact that some people are quite hot-headed as well, especially when it comes to the last stage of the Grand Prix. Some people just lose their racing etiquette and they start doing some crazy things indeed. All the respect has gone out the window. It's all or nothing basically for these drivers. They fight out to the absolute death, and that's what we're seeing as well. A lot of people have lost good opportunities this season because of all the shenanigans going on, all the kerfuffle going on as well during the Grand Prix. As we've got Lawrence now towards the line, he goes up into P4, of course, on the medium compound tyres. What did Eric say in the chat there, Milan?
I'm going to read it out as 1 second as Ishband crosses the line. He goes into P3 in the Haas, but what he said that he thinks I could just do the commentary in Dutch because no one in English is watching this, but I think you just forget that you're not Dutch and you can't speak Dutch fluently. So interesting comment there by Erik. I'm sure he...
Ik ben Engels, mate. I'm not Dutch.
Exactly. So that is why we're doing it in English. I deal with it, by the way, so not my problem. But speaking of Erik, he is on his flying lap down in P12, yet to set a lap time with 8 minutes remaining. It's been quite a strange qualifying session, I must say, with people going out quite late, not really many representative lap times. It's hard to really track out who is going to be on pole position. Right now, Fireblaze has set at 30.7, which is definitely not going to be pole position either. But Erik makes his way down the Las Vegas Strip. His teammate, Rickajo, is making his way to the line as well. Take a look at what he can do in the Aston Martin. As he crosses the line for 30.757, puts him right behind Fireblaze. And in P5 for a respectable lap time. So that is someone going off. In fact, Power Seam has hit the wall in turn 5. And he has damaged his front wing in the process. As Erik has invalidated. Unfortunate for him, his lap time was going to be a 1:30.2, would have put him on the front row, but it doesn't count if you exceed track limits right behind or right ahead in the standings. Kevin and Face Dennis, and Kevin goes fastest, 1:30.015. Still haven't seen someone go into the 1:29s. This is the closest we've been so far. Kevin puts it just under a tenth ahead of his teammate Evan. It's a McLaren front row lockout right now with a few minutes remaining. But let's take a look at Kik, who was on pole position for the sprint race. Can he do it again? Can he go for a 1:29? Yes, he can. And a 1:29.973 puts him at the top of the field. And that is the first 1:29 in qualifying.
So we saw Kik in the race who dropped backwards. He wasn't really fighting that much. He was like very passive during the Grand Prix. He wasn't really over aggressive. So I wonder if he's changed his setup. I'm quite sure if you're allowed to change setups since from the sprint qualifying to the actual qualifying. So if you can, has Kik adjusted the setup? I'm not quite sure, so let's see if he does or not. But that was quite strange for Power Steam to hit the wall because he was in his outlap, so he's lost both his end plates and a trip to the pits is necessary. A set of soft powered tyres have been wasted as well as he makes his way back in the pit lane. Power Steam, a fantastic qualifying in the sprints, but unfortunately seems to be struggling here in the actual qualifying there. So maybe the confidence has been knocked off after what happened in the sprint race after hitting the wall as well and going off the runoff area as he makes his way back in at the pit lane then. So I'm surprised about Kevin in P2. Kevin, who set his best lap time on the medium powered tyres with a 30.114, I think it was, in the sprint qualifying, but he's only gone 1/10 quicker on a set of soft powered tyres in the feature qualified. So that's quite strange how he's gone 1/10 quicker despite soft powered tyres being the better tyre as Mike scrapes the wall at the exit of turn 12 there. So I don't know if he's on a flying low. I think he was, but unfortunately he has made a big mistake and he has backed off as well. So there is 5 minutes left to go in qualifying. This qualifying session has absolutely flown by. 2 drivers, including Erik and also Mum and Nick as well, haven't set a lap time. I think Erik has just said in the chat, he thought I wasn't doing comms, but I'm here.
Oh, well, should have listened then, as he's very clearly on stream. But this has been a really strange qualifying session. But Lucas in the second Williams, I'm not quite sure if he's on a lap. The rear light is flashing, so and I think he's got a full battery as well. He might just be on a second out lap, but he has got the fuel left in the tank to potentially go for another lap. Let's take a look on board with the Williams. Is he going to pull into the pit lane? I think he is. He pulls to the left hand side of the track. And Lucas is going into the pit lane, which leaves Lawrence, who I saw had invalidated his run once again on the previous lap. He is not going to do it this time, but well, a 1:32.136 puts him on a P10, 2 seconds behind the field. So many of these drivers haven't really set a representative lap time, with basically 1 run remaining. Well, now we have to wait until the final few minutes out on track and for the final shootout for pole position. We've got just under 4 minutes remaining. Kik currently out in front, just like he was in the sprint qualifying. He's got the 2 McLarens right behind him though in second and third.
Could be a very interesting shootout towards the end of qualifying. I can't wait to see who takes pole as Lawrence there taking Very weird lines indeed. He's still in the mini-club power tyres in P10, so he is struggling around here in Vegas. Unfortunately, is ETA Lawrence there. Kick hasn't had a pole for quite a long time either. I haven't seen the man take a pole for such a long time. So let's see if he can get his first pole since when? Ages ago. I actually can't remember the last time he took a pole. So let's see if I think it was like the Austrian Grand Prix where. Well, it could have been Lucas who took pole, but that was a very long time ago indeed. But 3 minutes left to go. We've got AMS Eastbrand, the championship leader, who's had many pole positions as well this season. His last pole was at the Canadian Grand Prix, and he won it as well ahead of Fireblades and Eric. It was a Haas one too, but unfortunately, I think Robbie Jacobs picked himself up a 3-second penalty as well. So now we've got Lawrence coming towards the final few corners. I think he's going to dive in the pit lane and put on a set of the soft compound tyre. So, who is the first one out there? It is AMS Eastbound, like I said. So there we are then on board with the Haas driver who has looked formidable as well this season. Let's see, can he keep his momentum going as well? He is the championship leader. I don't think he raced last time out at the Spanish Grand Prix, so yeah, he didn't race either. So we mentioned that AMS Eastbrand couldn't afford to lose a lot of points either towards Fireblades, because Fireblades had a big chance to close the gap. The gap is 18 points in the championship between Eastbrand and Fireblades, but whilst Eastbrand is about to go for a lot of time, I will read the championship status out for you right now. So Eastbrand 170 points ahead of Fireblades at number 95, like Landon McQueen in second place with 152, separated by 18 points. Eric in P3 with 140. That is super close between Eric and Khatikas. Khatikas with his win in Spain in fourth place, 135. Ahead of Kick, interestingly. Kick in fifth place after a difficult season so far this season, 115 points. Lucas in sixth, his Dutch teammate with 101 points. Robbie Jacobs, the Belgian, in seventh place, as we watch Eastbrand on his flying lap. Has 82 points. Robbie Jacobs hasn't really raced a lot this season. His best result came at the British GP. He won in the sprint, but finished second in the feature race because his teammate of Eric just beat him towards the line. It was super close finish indeed. And Stefan almost picked up a podium a few races ago at the Belgian Grand Prix. And definitely remember that one as well, where he spun out in Stavolo in P9 with 50 points. Ruben, who has won 2 races, has picked up a podium this season in 10th place with 49 points. Ivan outside the top 10, 11th place there, so I thought behind than that, but he's only 11th. Cyclo, the Brits, in 12th place, the only Brit in this division. After attempting in Miami, it was an Alpine 1-2 as well. After losing the win in Australia because of a 3-second penalty, he won at the Miami Grand Prix. Matthias in P3 in 13th. Sorry, Matthias in 13th with 36. As I'll leave it there for now because AMS Eastbrand is about to make his way towards the finish line, and there is 40 seconds left to go in qualifying. Here comes Eastbrand towards the line. What's he going to be? P3. It's a 30.503. Or 053, sorry, just behind Kevin. Kevin is improving in the first sector by a tenth as he exits turn 10. Now coming towards the high-speed corners of turn 11 and turn 12. There's cars ahead of him, but I'm interested in Kevin to see what he could do elsewhere on the track. We've got a few people down towards 13 and 16, the Haas, the Williams, and the Kickstarter as well. Kevin rides the curb through turn 12, and he sets a purple middle sector by 1/10 of a second. Kevin is absolutely flying out here tonight in Las Vegas. The Sauber comes towards the line, going for his last lap. He almost didn't make the lap either. As Kevin coming towards the final few corners to go on this racetrack, hops, jumps and skips over the curb as Mike goes up into P4 in the Ferrari, as Octavia is P9 in the Red Bull. Octavia qualifies inside the top 10 despite a difficult feature race or sprint race. Here comes Kevin towards the line. Kevin takes pole. It's a 29.835, but elsewhere on the track, is anybody else improving? Ivan is down in the sector by a few hundredths of a second there as Fireblaze across the line stays in P7, once again out-qualified and outperformed by his Ferrari teammate. The Haas in the background, as Faye Dennis unfortunately has broke his wing. Mercedes of TVH and P13 and P12. Both Aston Martins are quite close together on the track. Watch out for Eric as well as he crosses the line. Eric goes up into P6 just behind a van, and now a van exits turn 16. Let's see where the McLaren driver could go. As he makes his way towards the line now, it's going to be P5 still.
What about Kick though? Currently second place. I'm not sure if he's up on his time. He's the only man who can dethrone Kevin from pole position. The Williams driver is going to cross the line. Is it going to be enough as Kick goes fastest? He does by 0.2 of a second. Wow, what a lap from Kick, and he's done it again here around Las Vegas, on pole for the sprint race and on pole for the main race as well. What a lap from Kevin. He delivered when he needed to, and he's put his car on pole position by 0.2 of a second.
Have you noticed something in Milan? P3 and P4 at the exact same time.
Yeah, Eastbrand and Mike both with 4.24 behind the Williams. It's quite extraordinary qualifying session, but 4.10 still behind the pole sitter. Kick absolutely on fire in qualifying. Hasn't quite managed it to convert it into race pace just yet, but maybe he will for the main event. But Kick on pole ahead of Kevin, Eastbrand, Mike, Van, Eric, Lucas, Power Team, Fireblaze, and Ray Kaiju. And I just realized this might be a championship deciding race between Eastbrand and Fireblaze.
Indeed it is then. The gap is 70 points. And to take the maximum amount of race results as well, I think how many points do you get for first place? You know what, that's a bad question to ask considering I'm the main commentator here. So it's 25 points. Yeah, so the gap is 70 points. So I think Eastbrand needs to...
after the sprint race, provisionally, Eastbrand gained another 5 points on Fireblaze, which means he leads by 23, I think. Going into race. Oh, wow. Quite the conditions around here.
Can I do the start of the feature race if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure. Go for it. Well, it's going to be an interesting one for sure. With these conditions, it's pouring it down like we're in the UK right now.
It's not raining in the UK. It's not raining in the UK. In fact, in the UK, it's actually been quite nice weather as well, and it hasn't rained for quite a long time, like the past month or so. So
wow.
the UK weather, thankfully, giving us some good weather because obviously, as Brits, we are sick of the rain. And we should be used to the rain as well, like you guys do in the Netherlands as well, because I know it rains there as well. But let's see then what happens during the race. As Kevin says, we ain't cooking in qualifying. As Lawrence says, got a nice medium stint in. So let's see then. The rain is pouring around here in Las Vegas, something I wasn't expecting to see. But Havana did warn us, and let's see how it affects the drivers. Let's see who's got the race pace as well, or the setup, because obviously it could be a bit difficult now. We see a lot of people with low downforce setup, so that's about to go away in Las Vegas. 4, 5 lights. We are underway here in Las Vegas and on the wet compound tyres too. It's a tentative start from everybody. Here comes Mike on the inside of Eastbrand. Eastbrand now demoted into P4. There's a mixture of wets and inters as we go down towards turn 1. Sliding to the corner there. You can see everyone squirming away. And Ivan gets ahead of Eastbrand as well. Eastbrand, Eric and Fireblaze on the inters. Fireblaze has dropped to P14 already as well. So a bad start for the championship contender. Here comes Eastbrand though back through on the inters ahead of Ivan there. So lost the place gate immediately as we head down towards the breaker zone. Here comes Kick and Kevin going side by side in towards the breaker zone. We go behind us is Ivan back ahead of Eastbrand and Sim as well. Almost lost traction out of turn 4, squirming away with the steering wheel as we head down towards turn 6 and turn 7. Here comes Lucas onto the inside there of Power Steve. They go side by side still in towards these few corners now. It's a slow speed corners as Lucas almost hits. He did hit the back of him, but thankfully Eastbrand keeps pointing in the right direction as around the outside goes Power Steve. You can barely see these people as well because they're all disappearing in the spray. They're all sliding in the high-speed corners. Almost lost the car. There's almost a big crash to the background. Here comes Lucas back down into Power Team. And who's that? Who calls the yellow flag? That's Octavia. As Power Team goes deep in the corner, Lucas is back ahead. He's back ahead of him, and Power Team has lost more places in the process. Eric goes through. Here comes ETA Lawrence right behind too, and also Reiki U right behind the Kickstarter. The Kickstarter has been demoted after being swamped by Lucas in the breaker zone. Ivan gets ahead of Mike as well, pulls himself into P3 ahead of the Ferrari jam. The car 1-3 so far. Mike down the inside, and there's contact between the two. That's a very, very late move. Was that intentional? I'm not quite sure. Did he outbrake himself and therefore had to do it? But thankfully, both cars keep pointing in the right direction. And what a first lap, Milan Langer.
Absolute chaos so far in these slippery conditions. Lawrence and Eric going wheel to wheel in the final corner. Some cars hitting the wall on the exit. As that is Seam now up the inside of Eric. Bit of contact between the two of them. The two Aston Martins now find themselves wheel to wheel. And also Dennis trying to have a look around the outside, but he's battling it out as Octavia has retired from the session in turn 1. Or he might have just retired on track. I'm not quite sure, but that is our first retirement of this race. But Kevin is out in front in the lead by 6/10 to Kick, and that's already a 1.8 second gap towards Van, who's dropped back quite significantly. Then it's Mike in P4, Isbrand on the intermediates, the best running car on Inters right now. Currently sat in P5, just ahead of Lucas, and a little bit of a gap towards ET8 Lawrence, but a good start from him as well. From outside the top 10 has made his way up to P7, ahead of Power Seam, then Erik, a second car on intermediates in P9, but Fireblaze down in P13 in a race where he basically needs to win to keep his championship hopes alive, as he is in P13. Maminik in P14, actually that's not true, because Isbrand needs to outscore Fireblaze by a few points in order to win the championship. But Fireblaze down in P13, Isbrand in P5. But a great start so far from Kevin and Kik, and they're already building a gap towards Ivan. It's now 2.5 seconds.
I'm going to interrupt. Well, you stop talking, but here comes FaZe Dennis. But that's all I want to say. Unfortunately, Milan Langer, I've got to go. So it's been an absolute pleasure to commentate with you, mate. Enjoy the rest of the race, and I'm pretty sure you'll do a good job in your own, like you did in Canada. So you're a fantastic commentator. Enjoy this race, mate, and I'll see you next Friday. Thank you so much for your company, and we'll see you. Or I'll see you for the Brazilian Grand Prix, the final race of the season. Let's make it a good one. Hopefully we get a full attendance, because it is the last race of the season and the last race of the game as well. So I'll see you later. Expectation that tot seeds.
Thank you very much. Talk to you later. Good fun. Yeah, have fun.
Oh, definitely will have fun. Don't you worry.
Alright, see you.
See you, mate.
Right then, on lap 3 of this race, Kevin out in front by half a second to Kik. And Ivan is 2.5 seconds behind. Mike in P4, and Isbrand, he is struggling to stay within, I was going to say DRS range, not really what you use in this race in these conditions, but he's outside of the 1 second window towards Mike, and he's got Lucas, Lawrence and Power Seam all for company. The wet certainly seen the faster tyre right now. Lawrence on the inside of Lucas, bit of contact between the two on the exit. Red Bull out of shape, and that allows Power Seam to blast through back up into 7th place as Lawrence drops down to P8 as they slide around turn 10 and 11. With the Kik Sauer fighting himself just ahead, and that is Isbrand going quite deep into turn 12, hits the wall on the outside as well. He gets now 2 seconds towards Mike, because wet definitely seemed to be the quicker tire at this stage of this race. And here is Lucas going to try and get past the Haas, and so is Lawrence trying to get past Power Seam. Williams round the outside and up into P5 as Mike and Ivan swap around once again. Lawrence having a go up the inside of Isbrand, getting nearly squeezed towards the wall by the Haas, but he does get the job done. Lawrence now up into 6th place. Isbrand down to 7th, but with the switchback, pulls alongside, very close for contact once again between these two. As Power Seam also trying to have a good look around the outside, but almost go 3 wide into the final corner. That can't go well, and it does somehow. But Power Seam does hit the wall on the exit. Now sends it up the inside into turn 1 on Isbrand. These 3 are fighting it out as Isbrand goes sideways on the exit of turn 1. Now Power Seam tries to go the long way around the outside of turn 4, sliding around both the Sauber and the Haas. And the Haas of Isbrand stays ahead for now. But man, what a scrap they're having right now in this race. Power Seam, is he going to have a go up the inside once again? No, this time he is going to stay behind for now and keep things a little bit more calm. But the gaps are growing at the front as Kevin has built a gap of 1.5 seconds now to Kik, and it's 2.5 seconds still towards Mike as Isbrand and Power Seam once again going at it. Power Seam going to send it up the inside of turn 10, and he is going to get past Isbrand finally on track with a move in the corner where you really don't see overtakes quite usual, but Power Seam does get the jump eventually. Isbrand down to P8. Seems to be struggling on these intermediates. Erik struggling a little bit less, it must be said. And it's not Lucas. Lucas has gone off. He's gone straight on at turn 12. And the Williams driver drops all the way down into last place, P14. So a bit of a mistake there by Lucas, unless he got hit by someone around him. As Isbrand is going to try and get past Power Seam once again. These two have been fighting it out for the entirety of this race so far. Power Seam later on the brakes and puts his Sauber in front of the Haas still, while FaZe Dennis and Fireblaze, the other one on intermediates, struggling to keep it in front of the Mercedes of TVHNL, having half a look at the inside on the run to the final corner. Fireblaze is going to stay ahead as once again Power Seam and Isbrand fighting it out. Is Isbrand going to send it up the inside? He is going to try and go for it as the Sauber losing the back end, and so is the Haas, as all three of them were sliding out of turns 1 and 2, and they stay in the same order for now. But for how much longer? Because these three drivers scrapping it out like it's the last lap, when in reality we still got 20 laps remaining after this one, and each one cannot afford to burn out his tires too much at this stage, or will lose out a lot of time later on. I don't know if it is gonna get any better condition-wise with the rain. Power Steam and Eastbound certainly burning out their tires at this stage. The rear end stepping out every single corner on the exit and entry. Can't put too much wear on the intermediates on the rear end. But if you look at the front, the gap between Kevin and Kik has remained pretty much the same. 1.5 seconds, but they are driving slightly away from Mike now in P3, around 3 seconds. And he has already got a gap towards Van as well of 1.3, then Lawrence a further 3 seconds behind. And then another 2 seconds towards Power Seam, who has finally got a bit of Eastbrand in his gearbox. Gap is around just over 1 second as Mominik and TVHNL swap around. TVHNL drops 2 positions, getting passed by both the Kik Sauber and the Williams of Lucas. And speaking of Sauber, Power Seam is the first one to pick up a 3-second time penalty. Has been running in quite a good race so far, but that is going to hurt his chances of a good result. Rookie sat in P6. As his teammate Mominik pulling into the pit lane at the end of lap 6, or the end of lap 5 onto 6. And is it a scheduled pit stop? Is he going to pull and go on to the intermediates? Yes, he is. No front wing change, so it is a scheduled stop then. Mominik onto intermediates, and will they be the faster tire? Will it start to rain less significantly? And will the intermediate become the better tire in a few moments time? At the moment Eastbrand still not really gaining on the cars in front, nor is Erik, but he is a little bit stuck behind the Haas right now, who is really starting with the back end. Fireblaze right now in P11 behind the other Haas of Face Dennis, trying to keep his intermediates alive at this stage. As Kevin has now built a lead of 2 seconds towards Kik, and that is Erik getting past Eastbrand, and Erik is now the best car out there on intermediates, or the first car out there. The top 6 on wets. Then it's Erik and Eastbrand, 7 and 8, both on intermediates, as Lucas is going to get past Fireblaze up the inside. They go still wheel to wheel though on the exit, but Fireblaze can't quite match the traction on his intermediates, and he drops down to P12. TVH now a little bit behind in the Mercedes, and we'll keep an eye out on Mominik, who has just spitted for a fresh set of intermediates. Moment not really gaining on the cars in front. And Fireblaze right to the back of the Williams, and he's going to send it up the inside into turn 5. Can he be late from the brakes with the intermediates? As they go wheel to slight bit of contact between the two. Lucas runs slightly wide into the wall. Fireblaze now has the outside line for turn 6 and 7. Which will turn into the inside of 8, but Lucas sends it up the inside, still going wheel to wheel between the Ferrari and the Williams. Fireblaze now just ahead, will have the outside line for turn 10. So could the Williams of Lucas put it off on the exit? Yes, he can. But Fireblaze has to stay in P12 for a little while longer, but he is under pressure from TVHNL. A bit of tap from behind, in fact, as TVHNL has to push the Ferrari through the corner because Lucas is saving the battery just in front. And slightly hit the wall on the exit of 12 with the rear end tire. As Mike now 4 seconds behind the leading pair. Fireblaze is going to send one up the inside once again into the final chicane Woodswell this time, it's the other way around. Fireblaze on the inside, the Williams on the outside. Bit of contact between the two into the wall. Goes the Williams. But as they hook some tires here, Lucas and Fireblaze getting their elbows out at the early stages of this race onto lap 8. And Lucas still finds a way to stay ahead of Fireblaze. But now on the exit, the Ferrari puts his car underneath. But he will have the outside line for the next turn. Wheel to wheel we go, Lucas and Fireblaze fighting it out for P11 and losing out so much time to the top 10, 2.5 seconds almost to face Dennis. And Fireblaze still can't find a way past. Now into the braking zone of turn 5, puts his Ferrari up the inside once more, but he just doesn't have the traction compared to the Williams and is still stuck behind in P12. Erik 2 seconds behind Power Team on intermediates. Not really starting to see a change of pace between Inters and West, as Power Team has picked up a 3-second time penalty. That put his total on 6 seconds. But Mominick is gaining a lot of time on the cars ahead of him, who are battling quite a bit here, as Lawrence has got past Evan. So has Evan made a bit of a mistake of... or has Lawrence just closed the gap? He's around 2.5 seconds behind Mike. Red Bull is up into P4. Gap to the leader. There you go. If you're interested about the Inter runners, that's around 14 seconds as of now. We'll keep an eye out if they close the gap. And that is face Dennis into the pit lane. At the end of lap 9. I reckon the Haas is going to put on a set of intermediates as well. He will come out behind Moby Nick, who has pitted 3 laps earlier. So Moby Nick to B13, face Dennis down into B14. But it looks like Erik and Isbrand are matching the pace of the front runners, as Power Team once again sliding around in the middle sector, like we have seen him do for the most of this race, and he slides around on the exit of turn 10 and hits the wall on the other side of the track. The Power Team really struggling with the back end of the car, stepping out left, right and center, and it's not going to take long before Erik and Isbrand will close the gap and put him under pressure for P6. So Isbrand, I think, has made a little bit of a mistake just now into turn 12. Has he run slightly wide and hit the wall? I think he has, because he's dropped behind Erik by just over a second. Meanwhile, Kick is continuing to stay within DRS range, or within 1 second range, or around the 1 second range, but they're both going to pull into the pit lane. Both Kevin and Kick into the pit lane at the end of lap 9. Our race leaders pulling into the pit lane, and so does Mike, but Mike spins around and he resets, or gets reset the track by the game, and that has put him on the start-finish straight, and that has ruined his chances of a podium finish, as underbraking into the pit lane, the back end completely stepping away from the Ferrari, and Mike going around and is now behind Van and Lawrence by just over 5 seconds. As we look at Kevin and Kick, they are coming out, well, only 1.5 seconds behind Isbrand and Erik, who have started on the intermediates, but they will need to overtake as Power Team fighting it out with Erik. Erik, in fact, fighting it out with Power Team, trying to find a way past on the intermediates. Unable to do so far, but he knows that the Kicksauber is struggling on his wets. As Isbrand has got Kevin for company, it's around 1 second now, and Kevin in fact picks up a 3-second time penalty once again, just like he has in the sprint race. Kevin once again with a 3-second time penalty, and that has opened the door and given the opportunity to Kick to potentially win this race, even though still got 15 laps remaining. Anything can happen. But is Kevin going to go for the move on Eastbrand? I think he is. Going to pull to the right hand side and trying to go the wrong way around the outside into the braking zone. Eastbrand defending the inside line though. Wheel to wheel we go. The Williams, the McLaren and the Haas going onto the wall on the exit. And almost Eastbrand going around, taking a lot of risk in this championship fight. I don't think Kevin has got front wing damage from that. No, he's not. His end plate still on the right hand side of his cars. Multiple cars pulling into the pit lane once again, and Mike this time does not spin around on pit entry and is going to put on a set of intermediates. As Mominik in P11 will gain a few more positions to Lucas and potentially his teammate. In fact, Mominik with the fastest lap of the race, 143.4, and seems to be quite comfortable on his intermediates. Comes out, or his teammate comes out right ahead of him in P9. But we've got 2 cars remaining to make their pit stop from the wets, and of course we've got Eastbrand and Erik, who both started on the intermediate tire, going as long as possible, but they will need to make a pit stop at some point in this race due to the tire wear. And Kick is now putting the pressure on Eastbrand as well, who slides his way into turn 12. Kick now right to the back of the Haas, and with the help of Slipstream, a little of ERS, is going to pull to the right hand side, and Kick is going to overtake Eastbrand and put himself into P4 and still within striking distance of Kevin. .8 is the gap between the former race leaders. Erik still going strong on his intermediates, and that's the fastest lap of the race momentarily, because Kevin goes quickest, 141.9. As the track seems to be getting better in conditions, the rain is definitely getting lighter than it was compared to the start of this race. So won't be long before Lawrence and Rekinju pull into the pit lane to replace their full wet tires with intermediates. Power steam right at the back of Mike, but it's difficult to overtake in the middle part of the lap. Power steam almost having a look at the inside though, into turn 6. Got a steamer right behind him on 3 seconds as TVH now pulls into the pit lane and retires from the session. Becomes our second retirement of this race after Octavia. So just 13 runners remaining, and it's Fireblaze at the back of the pack down in P13, while his championship rival is in P5 and on course to win the championship tonight if he finishes like this. But he does need to make a pit stop at some point, as Kevin once again going faster, 130.4, and he's closed the gap towards Erik to just a few tenths of a second. While Laurens still continuing on his full wets, and so is Reikaiju in the Aston Martin. And Fireblaze up the inside of Dennis into turn 1, and he gets the position, and now it's up into P12, but still behind the Williams of Lucas that he had a fierce battle with early on in the race. And Kevin now 4 tenths of a second behind Erik. Is he going to try and get past on this next straight with the help of some ERS? Possibly, as Evan has got ahead of the other Aston Martin. to put himself into P6. His teammate is going to try and go for second place, pulls to the right hand side, and Kevin takes second place away from Erik. Now has his sight set on Laurens, 2.5 seconds up the road on the wets. I'm surprised he's got quite a good pace right now on the wets. And is he going to go from wets to dries? I wonder if it is going to dry up in this race, as Kevin once again sets the fastest lap in 1:30.4, just like he did last lap. Just goes a tad quicker, as Dennis picks up a 3-second time penalty for track limits. And Mike now with the fastest lap, as his teammate Fireblaze is once again putting the pressure on Amos Lucas for P11. Still in this race, fighting it out for the wooden spoon. The Williams and the Ferrari were once in the fight for the constructors. In fact, I still think they are. Actually, it's a three-way fight in the constructors, with Ferrari lead by 3 points over Williams and 12 points over Haas going into this race. It's not after the sprint race, as Mike goes up the inside of Regaju, and Regaju is trying to go for the switchback, while Laurens has lost out to both Kevin and Erik and is now down into P3. Has really started to struggle on the wets. Kevin into the lead of this race, but here comes Erik trying to take it back on his 13th lap of intermediates. Pulls to the inside, and the Aston Martin is going to try and go back at the inside, but Kevin with the tire advantage, bit of contact between the two, as Erik almost losing the car and going around, but managing to save his Aston Martin, as Kevin just turned into the chicane. And now Erik and Laurens go wheel to wheel into the final corner, and there's contact between the two as Erik has to cut across the inside line. That is Laurens with a cent and a half of the inside, and he was never making that corner, was he? Absolute kamikaze dive bomb there by Laurens, as a result of that kick, has now put himself into second place. But that Red Bull came like a missile into turn 1. P4, he drops down. I'm not quite sure what his plan is, as he has to slow down. Down to P5. Have to keep an eye out on the Red Bull. But does now put Kevin back into lead ahead of Kick, just like they were before the pit stops. As Laurens trying to drift his Red Bull, but unsuccessfully doing so. As Lucas still under pressure from Fireblaze, but the gap is 3 seconds towards Mominick. Fireblaze and Lucas really struggling in these conditions. Just do not have the pace at all. And are both outside the points, as Lucas picks up a 3-second time penalty for good measure, which has reduced his chance of finishing inside the points even more. Erik still staying within the DRS range, or 1 second distance. Once again I said that, but staying within the 1 second margin of Kick, as Kevin goes even quicker. Sets the fastest lap once again. Laurens finally putting into the pit lane, and he's going onto the mediums, which is an interesting strategy when you see that it's still raining. So he goes from wets to mediums, and I can already tell you it's definitely not dry enough out there for the mediums, as you will find out in a few moments time. Absolutely no grip at all on the slicks, as he drifts his way around turn 4, now under pressure from Dennis. Obviously not the right tire not the tire you want to be on as he runs straight on in the turn 6 and 7 chicane, and that allows Dennis to get through. And now is down into P13 and last place in this race. Kevin leads now by just under 2 seconds to kick as Lawrence reset the track, might as well. Damage to his front wing, 3-second time penalty, all going downhill as he slams into the wall, as Kevin has got the fastest lap of the race once more. Continues to go faster in this race. But Mike, with a 140 dead in P6, he's now the fastest man on track. Ricketts is still going strong on those wets, but he's under pressure from Mominik and Lucas. And Lucas is going to go up the inside of the kick Sauber into turn 1. As we go wheel to wheel for 9th place in this race. Lucas is going to try and go around the outside now, but just can't quite find the grip. Now he's boxed in between Mominik and Ricketts, but he finds the gap and he puts his Williams in front of the Aston Martin. Lawrence retires in pit lane. Fireblaze now sends it up the inside of the Aston Martin as well, and he is going to get that position. Bit of contact, bit of more contact, and more contact between these two. Ricketts losing the back end, now forcing Fireblaze off track, who picks up a 3-second time penalty in the process, as Ricketts continues to fight it out with the Ferrari and spins out as they make even more contact. The Aston Martin half round down to P11, while Mominik watching on as the cars in front of him fighting it out aggressively for P9 right now. But Lucas and Fireblaze, after all of that, now are both inside the points, 8th and 9th, but 9th place definitely not going to be enough for Fireblaze if he still wants to have a shot at the Drivers' Championship. Kevin 39.7. Isbrand and Erik still staying out on the intermediates. I wonder if they're going to try and do the whole race on inters, which is definitely a difficult task with tyre wear. Evan slowly but surely closing the gap towards Isbrand as it reaches just under 2 seconds. Mike behind also having the pace. Winner of the sprint race, unfortunately spun out at the pit entry earlier on, but he still could be in the fight for a podium if Erik and Isbrand's tires drop off near the end of the race. 7 laps to go after this one, and Kick is within striking distance of Kevin. He needs to stay within 3 seconds to win this race, and he is doing that right now. 1.7 at the end of lap 18. And look how much Evan is gaining. It was 2 seconds a moment ago. Well, it's 1 second now at the end of this lap. And Isbrand is pulling into the pit lane at the end of lap 19. Can't go any longer on these intermediates. And he is going to have to go and put on a fresh set to the end of this race, which means that bring home the championship tonight is going to become trickier than it should have been, because he will be behind Fireblaze, coming out in P10, or just ahead of Mominik in P9. And he's got his championship rifle just up the road by 2.3 seconds. As power seems at the moment, he's got front wing damage and drops down to P8, and Fireblaze does get past into P7, and I can imagine he can get his 3-second time penalty removed, because he definitely got pushed off the track in the turn 6-7 chicane while trying to get past the Aston Martin. Erik still staying out on his intermediates. But I reckon he will have to pit soon as well, if Isbrand was already struggling with the tires with 7 laps to go. But he is. He's got the pace as Power Steam once again hits the wall. And that opens the door for Isbrand to, well, go through the Kick Sauber. And he's now up into 8th place. And Fireblaze just ahead by 1.5 seconds. As Power Steam runs slightly deep into the braking zone. With that front wing damage, will struggle on the exit. Another tank slapper for the Sauber. He's going to pull not into the pit lane, or he is. Crossing the pit line entry. And Power Steam comes to a complete stop, in fact. Slowing down a little bit too much there. On pit entry. Which allows his teammate Mominek to advance into 9th place, and Power Steam is now retired from this race. Comes our 4th retirement after Laurens, TVHNL and Octavia. Just 11 drivers remaining in this race. One more and everyone will score points if they finish. As Faith Dennis, he's put on a set of mediums. He's gone for the gamble. Oh, it's still very clearly raining. So I would be surprised if slicks are any quicker than intermediates. And if they are, well, it's to no use basically, because he is 27 seconds behind Mominek in front of him. Recadue for another set of intermediates. As Isbrand has got past his championship rival Fireblaze and has put himself into 7th place. But he needs to gain at least one more position in order to win the championship. He has got a 23-point advantage going into this main race after the sprint race provisional results. And he's currently 25 points ahead with 26 points remaining for the final race next week at Interlagos, Brazil. And he sets the fastest lap of the race. So that has given him another point, and I think that would be enough. But I'm not too sure. I think he would win on countback either way, as he has won more races than Fireblaze, I believe. But it would be nice if he gets that position on track, just to be sure. Which he will, especially with Lucas's 3-second time penalty and the speed that he's got right now. He will catch up to the Williams in no time. Erik still staying out on intermediates. They have been on his Aston Martin for 20 laps in the start of this race. And Ivan, he goes sailing around the outside. And it's now a double podium for the McLarens. Meanwhile, Kick is within 1 second of Kevin. And he's on course to win this race from pole position. As Faith Dennis, well, realizing the mediums are not the tire you want to be on, and has gone for a new set of intermediates. With 4 laps to go, Kevin still leads, but Kick is closing that gap. Mike putting the pressure on Erik, as Isbrand has already closed the gap towards Lucas and is going to have a go of the Williams. He's got no battery remaining. Trying to pull around the outside, fastest up the race once again. Can't quite go for the move into the braking zone, as the Williams parks the bus on the exit and is able to stay in front. Isbrand up with a tire advantage, tries to go around the outside, now the inside, no, has to go around the outside once again, as they go wheel to wheel on the second straight. Isbrand on the outside, pushing Lucas to the inside of the track, but Lucas later on the brakes is able to stay in front, but with the switch back there from Isbrand, brilliant move, and he gets ahead of Lucas. Nicely done there to put his car into pieces, but Lucas sends one off the inside into turn 6, as elbows out between these two, as Lucas gets half spun around there by the Haas, the gloss are coming off in this race, but Isbrand has finally completed the move and has put his Haas into 6th place, and I think there's nothing Lucas can do right now to deny that position, as Pikachu picks up sets the fastest lap of the race in the Aston Martin. Has got a good pace, actually, as Lucas with another 3-second time penalty is going to push his ERS. Is he going to make the life of Isbrand even more difficult? He might be, because he is closing that gap towards the Haas. There's contact into the wall. Goes Lucas. As it's getting quite aggressive between these two AMS drivers, Isbrand and Lucas. And I think that has put an end to the fight for P6. Lucas now with front wing damage will pull into the pit lane. And I wonder if he's going to complete this race. He has got that front wing damage. With 2 laps to go, Kevin still out in front in the lead by 1 second towards Kick. And it's 11 seconds to Ivan, Mike, Erik and Isbrand, who as it stands will not win the championship, because Lucas has fallen out between between Isbrand and Fireblaze. At the moment, Isbrand will only finish 1 position ahead of Fireblaze, which means he will only gain 2 points and put his championship lead at 25 points, with 26 points remaining. So it will go through to the final race, but Erik is still out there on his 22 lap old intermediates, and with 2 laps to go, is Isbrand going to be able to close that gap on his fresh intermediates? He is going to be rapid compared to the Aston Martin, but he will need to gain around 3.5 seconds for the remaining 2 laps. And if he does, then he can crown himself world champion on track, although I'm not sure if the stewards were going to have anything to say about those incidents we've just seen with Lucas. So I will just keep it provisional out here. The gap has now grown to 7.5 seconds once again. As we're on to the penultimate lap of this race, Kevin out in front. He's got 1.5 seconds, but that's not going to be enough to claim this victory. Evan is pretty safe in P3, and so is Mike in P4, but he will be punching himself after the mistake of the pit entry. That will cost him the podium. Isbrand has already gained 1.5 seconds on this lap. Gap just under 6 seconds. Now I'm surprised Erik is able to pull this off without getting himself a puncture. 23 laps he's been on these intermediates, but he's definitely feeling the effects of tire wear. But I'm surprised to see he's actually gaining time on Mike, who seems to be struggling as well on his intermediates. As Isbrand has gained another 1.5 seconds and has put the gap down to around 4 seconds. It's gonna be very close coming on to the final lap. As Kevin is pushing on, and the gap has grown to 2.3. Kick needs to stay within 3 seconds if he wants to win this race. At the moment he is doing that, but Kevin is looking rapid as we go into the final lap of this race. Kevin leads by 2 seconds, 2.4. Is he going to be able to grow that gap to 3 seconds to the Williams? Or is Kick going to do just enough to win this race? At the moment, it seems like it might be going the way of Kevin. Oh, it's a puncture for Kick. His rear right tire has shredded, and the Williams from 2nd place in a potential fight for the race win has got a puncture after just 15 laps, while Erik is still going strong on his 24 lap old intermediates. But Kick is now trying to have a go drive home, and he's not going to be able to. With the rear right puncture spinning around, and his podium is going to fade away as Avan is going to make it a McLaren 1-2. Mike now is going to get onto the podium in a few moments time, although he's struggling with tire wear as well. So must be Erik and Isbrand closing that gap. There goes Kick drops down the order, down to P6, will become P7, 8, 9, maybe even 10, with Rekaju. Depends if he's able to hold on. Fireblaze is going to get past the Williams in a few moments' time as Isbrand. Oh, and Erik as well! Oh, on the final lap. Another driver, another puncture. It's all kicking off on lap 25 of 25, but that doesn't matter for Kevin, who is going to come around the final corner, and Kevin wins the Las Vegas Grand Prix in the end. Does so ahead of his teammate Evan in 13 seconds time. Well done to Kevin. What a race and what a result. And what a way to claim victory around Las Vegas. Here comes his teammate Evan across the line for second place. Mike is going to get that final spot on the podium in P3 with Isbrand in P4, which means that he will not become world champion because Fireblaze will finish in P5 after that. Erik with his puncture trying to hold on, which means we will get a magnificent 6th place finish from Mommy Nick. Take a bow as the Sauber will come across the line for 8 points. What a result for Sauber, his best result of the season. We absolutely love to see it. Lucas comes home in P7 and picks up the point for the fastest lap as Erik spins into the pit wall, resets the track as well. Both him and Kick with a rear right puncture on the final lap. You cannot ride it. They will come home in 8th and 9th, you would think. But Kick is still struggling to make it to the line in time before Rekaju catches up to the Williams. I think he is going to do just enough. Yes, he is. By 3 seconds. Rekaju finished in 10th place, and Face Dennis will finish in P11. But well done to the McLaren boys, getting a 1-2 around Vegas. Mike in P3, Isbrand in 4th, Fireblaze in 5th, mean that the championship is not decided tonight, and we'll go on to the final race at Brazil next week. Incredible result for Mommy Nick in P6. But Kevin, with the tire management, Kick might have pushed a little bit too hard early on in his intermediate stint, and he paid the price for it with a puncture on the final lap. But that's the end then of a chaotic weekend around Las Vegas. And these are your final results. Isbrand scored 19 points. Fireblaze scored 12. So Isbrand built his gap towards Fireblaze to, by 7 points, extends his lead to 25 points going into the final race at Interlagos. And a great result for Ferrari as well in the main race to extend their championship lead in the constructors. But what a race that was, and what a way to end a spectacular night in SDN Tier 1. We've got one round remaining in the championship. In fact, it's not next week. It's in 2 weeks' time. We return for the season finale at Brazil. Thank you all for tuning into the stream tonight. I hope you enjoyed. I certainly did. But me and Jamie will be back for the season finale in 2 weeks' time. See you guys next time. Have a good night. And